Originally, I saw seed because of a certain tone. So I went to brush it again. But after reading it, I still felt a little unfulfilled, so I thought about reading fan fiction to enjoy it. Result: maybe it's because this anime is too old. I searched dozens of books and found only 5 books with over 100,000 characters. Only one of them is still being updated. But it doesn't matter, it's just for fun anyway, so I just clicked in and took a look. I don't know the result if I don't see it. 3 chapters were not over, and a mouthful of poisoned milk made me almost die on the spot. Originally, it is normal for novels to be poisonous, because of different personal opinions and different preferences. The same plot is amazing in the eyes of some people, but poisonous in the eyes of others. Moreover, we are not the kind of people who can kill any poison. We can still handle every poisonous point, and I will not become like this. It's really because those novels are too poisonous, and the poison is a bit too much. I will tell you the general situation directly. 3 books. The title of the book is missing. The first harem was all collected, and even the captain belonged to him, but they had no end. The second harem has 4, Kagalai, Lux, Frey, Captain. I really haven't read it, I can't stand it anymore. There are 6 harems in the third book, and even if the harem is ignored, the plot is unsightly. I think I've written enough for the plot. I can't think of anyone who is more than me. But to be honest, when I think about this, I suddenly feel a lot more confident. This is one of the reasons why I wrote this fanfic. Summarizing these 3 books, I cracked it on the spot, even the kind that cracked several times. It's not that there is a problem with receiving the harem. After all, there are quite a few good harem essays written, and I personally like to read them geek. But you can't accept it without thinking. Tongren is different from the original. It has already set the general situation of these female protagonists. You can change it, but you can't deal with it. Just like Naruto in the biography of bloggers. In the book, Durandal and Cruz, both of them are played around by the protagonist, and they are completely calculated to die. Of course, if you are familiar with the plot, you can indeed do this. It's not a big problem, you can accept it. But the crux of the problem is the back: you have been collecting the harem in the early and midterm, and in the end there are only a few harem girls. As a result, when the army goes to war, you can directly command 90% of the Earth's universe army with your backhand. The reason is that the Earth cosmic force feels that you can't win, so let the protagonist take command. For this reason, There is also the death of Kira and Aslan. It doesn't mean that they can't die. After all, it's not that the protagonist was killed by the fandom, and it's not that we haven't seen it before. But at least you can give a reliable reason. Strike Freedom and Infinite Justice, under the command of the protagonist, was surrounded by troops for unknown reasons and could not break through. The explanation is that the energy cannot be supplied because the Eternal and the Archangel are not there. As a result, the mecha's energy was insufficient because the battle time was too long, and it was destroyed by Yitzhak and others who came later. I am so. Do you think this is over? Afterwards, because of the deaths of Aslan and Kira, the team fighting power was insufficient in the later stage. Because of the countdown to Genesis, it is useless if you can't get in. So the protagonist drove Dawn to the scene. A protagonist with almost no description of battles, he killed the real bird within 1 chapter. And successfully turned against Lei, and even let Lei go back to kill Durandal, and at the same time shut down and destroyed Genesis. And then the war ended. After watching the ending, I couldn't let go for a long time, and even began to doubt my life. So I left a comment. To be honest, this book, for readers who haven't watched anime, can be reluctantly accepted as a cool article. But people who have watched anime will most likely not be able to watch it. Then, I was scolded. Specific contents: I love to watch it, but I don't. If you don't feel comfortable, why do you write it yourself? BB Lai Lai said it as if you can write novels. Me, you think I've never written a novel? Is it difficult to write a novel? Just you? You can see a sense of superiority from reading the novel, so you write it for me? You're the only one who can't even sign the contract. Me, I was banned. After the banning package, where are you still scolding? I'm so. Now that I think about it, I feel like I'm in a panic. The general direction of the plot refers to the era table, that is, the events that happened in CE over the years. A single female protagonist. The heroine is tentatively scheduled Lux, Luna Maria, Myling, Stella. At present, these four have the highest voices. About the protagonist positioning, first of all, the protagonist is not the savior. At first, the protagonist was just an adjuster trying to survive, but later. Strength setting, melee combat is not as good as Aslan. Long-range sniping is not as good as Jishin. At present, the tentative advantages are the reaction ability of the battle and the battle prediction ability of the seed, which will be explained later. In terms of overall comprehensive strength, it will not be weaker than the two protagonists, but it will not form a situation of crushing. The specific outcome depends on the situation. In terms of ability, has seed ability, but it is not comprehensive. Because of the reason of taking medicine indiscriminately, the seed ability has been cut in half, and it will be restored later. Specific feedback mainly based on the content of the novel. Power issues, early stage, mid-stage Blue Cosmos, latest stage Earth Alliance. Just kidding, kidding. Body, the protagonist has a super-type body, and the specific one has not yet been determined. At present, there is no idea of obtaining a body in the extra part. Let's see the development of the subsequent plot. The body is really a bit of a headache. However, there is a high probability that it will be originally installed with other body templates. The sky is clear, the sun is shining. The warm sun shines on the earth. There are people coming and going on the bustling streets, dazzling with laughter and laughter. Almost all the handsome men and beautiful women on the street are full of youthful vigor. Squeak! Bang! Ah! The sharp breaking sound suddenly sounded, breaking this beautiful picture. There was a car accident. Someone was hit. Hurry up and notify the hospital to treat the injured. Are there any medical students here? The noisy and chaotic voices sounded, and enthusiastic people responded. In the center of the crowd, lay a young man in a white shirt, blood running down his cheeks. Accident? Got hit? Who got hit? Hearing the noise around him, the young man wanted to stand up from the ground to watch the excitement, but when he was about to raise his hand and exert himself, a tingling pain came from his limbs. It was initially determined that the hands were broken, the head was injured, the lungs were injured, and the injured were still conscious. Medical kit. Quickly bring the medical kit. The boy looked at the man who seemed to be a doctor in front of him, and felt the sharp pain from his limbs and chest, as if he had discovered something. Ah, so it was me who got hit, no wonder it hurts so much. But why did I get hit by a car? Am I not at home? The young man's brain is like a mess, and he has 100,000 whys in his heart. Why did you suddenly hit the street and get hit by a car? And is this person in front of you a doctor? Why don't the clothes look alike? And where is this place? Why does the sky look so fake? There are still stars in the daytime. No, my brain is a little heavy, I'm not going to die here. I haven't married a wife yet. The injured person's consciousness is sluggish. Speed up and return to the hospital, and at the same time contact the hospital to prepare for surgery. Move permissions to turn on face recognition, and notify the patient's family as soon as possible. With full of doubts and the noisy calling in his ears, the young man's consciousness could no longer hold on to being plunged into endless darkness. Plant. The country established by the adjusters, whose predecessor was the L5 research colony satellite Zodiac, was first funded by the Earth Atlantic Federation, the East Asian Republic, and the Eurasian Federation. The main inhabitants were the adjusters, and the population was presumed to exceed 20 million. Adjusters, also known as new human beings, refer to people who have been genetically manipulated to have superior abilities than ordinary people. No matter in terms of physical fitness or brain flexibility, the average ability of adjusters is higher than that of natural people. In addition to the physical gap, there are also social status and resource gaps. Because the cost of adjusting embryos is extremely expensive and cannot be supported by ordinary families at all, the families of the adjusters are almost all high-ranking members of society. So when you are faced with a family, whether it is from family birth or social resources, family background, physical fitness, IQ, and even appearance, etc., far ahead of your peers in every way, do you think you still need to fight? Do you think you have room to turn around? The most important thing is that this kind of despair is not natural, but man-made, which means that not only their generation can crush you, but their descendants will crush your descendants forever. The picture of the strong being strong and the weak being weak will last forever. Can you tolerate this happening? And this is also the source of the contradiction between natural man, old man, and adjuster, new man. However, adjusters also have drawbacks, multiply. Because of the contradiction between natural people, most of the adjusters were driven out of the earth. Without the support of the huge gene pool of natural people, it was impossible for a new generation of adjusters to emerge. And because of genetic engineering, the natural fertility rate of the adjusters is low, so the natural population growth of the adjusters has been stagnant, and it is more difficult for their offspring to reproduce. For this reason, PLANT even implemented forced matchmaking. So, why? Why it is like this? Boy, oh no, it should be called Noel Kasha. Recalling the memory in his mind, Noel fell into contemplation while lying on the hospital bed, or it is more appropriate to doubt life. After half a month of bed rest and investigation, he was basically sure that he had caught up with the crossing army. Originally this was a good thing. What is a transmigrator? Son of destiny. But, why? Why is it here? You said it's not good for you to wear, why did you have to travel here? I vaguely remember that PLANT is an alternate country in an anime. I haven't watched this anime for at least 10 years. 10 years. It took me 10 years to pass through, so outrageous. Originally, it's a bit of a to travel through something, but Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com ended up traveling through this world. Of course, it's possible to wear it wherever you go. Don't you know there are people who have directly crossed into the pleasant goat and become a sheep? But the crux of the problem is, where is the time travel to the old anime? Because of the long time, I basically can't remember the plot. The only thing I know is that this world is dangerous. As for how dangerous it is, let's put it this way, the war between the old man and the new man is completely nuclear bombs at the back, for fear that the firepower will not be enough to kill the other side. Moreover, this group of foolish critics did not throw nuclear bombs at the army, but chose the place where the people of the opposing force lived. Anyway, I probably remember that the earth was bombed several times by something stronger than a nuclear bomb, and it was the same. No matter where the earth is, no matter where you go, there is a risk of being hit by a nuclear bomb. So, there is no place where people can live in the entire universe, and there is no one safe. You don't have to run if you want to. Of course, like other anime, this anime also has a protagonist who tries his best to stop the war. But the crux of the problem is that the nuclear bomb exploded. The final war was stopped, yes, but the nuclear bomb still exploded. What should I do? Noel is completely muggle in bed. This kind of situation where he only remembers a little bit of the plot is disgusting. Either you let me know nothing, or you let me know everything. This state of knowing only a little bit is really torturous. Chirp. Just when Noel was thinking about how to save his life, the door of the infirmary slowly opened, and a man in a white robe walked in. Nyor tilted his head to take a look and then withdrew his gaze. About 10 minutes later your body is recovering very well, and you can be discharged from the hospital. The doctor checked the case information and smiled at Noor. Can I be discharged from the hospital? Noel was stunned after hearing this. If he remembered correctly, he seemed to have comminuted fractures in both hands, broken leg bones, broken ribs inserted into his lungs, and intracranial hemorrhage. Not having died on the spot is very bad. Well, one did die on the spot. This kind of injury would not be hospitalized in the previous Earth. Whether you can walk off the operating table alive is a question. But now you told me that I can be discharged, it's only half a month. Is it because I knew I didn't have the money to pay the medical bills so I stopped the loss in time? Okay, your body has basically recovered. The doctor said with a smile. After seeing Noor's suspicious expression, he couldn't help but continue, although your body hasn't fully recovered, you can almost move freely. Just pay attention to your daily life. In fact, there are still some things he didn't say. The drugs and instruments used by Noel are top-notch, so he can recover so quickly. After all, adjusters still belong to the category of human beings. I see, thank you doctor. By the way, what should I do with my medical expenses? Noel didn't know the details. The doctor said so. You can't just stay stubborn and continue to stay. And I don't even have the money to pay for the medical bills. You don't have to worry about this, someone has already paid for your medical expenses. The doctor smiled. Already paid? Who? Noor was stunned. What about this good thing? My medical expenses are not low. You don't know the kind of despair Noel had when he woke up and saw his medical checklist. If it wasn't too painful to commit suicide, he would have wanted to kill himself. More than 8 million, more than 8 million. Exempting some welfare discounts and various national policies, there are still more than 4 million vacancies on the bill. As soon as you crossed, you had a debt of 4 million. You might as well kill me. Maybe I can cross back while it's hot. So when he learned that someone had paid for the medical bills, Noel had a feeling of falling into a dream. It seems to be someone named Lao Lu, or something. The doctor thought about it carefully and said, I don't pay much attention to this aspect, so I can't remember it for a while, but your medical expenses have indeed been paid. Lao Lu. Noel always felt that the name was a bit strange after hearing it. He always felt that he had heard it somewhere but couldn't remember it for a while. You can go through the discharge procedures yourself in a while, and pay attention to rest when you go back. After the doctor said that Noel was fine, he turned and left the ward. Forget it, as long as it's here, it's okay. Anyway, wait a minute. I don't know who hit me yet. Suddenly, Noor remembered something very important. He didn't know who the perpetrator was. The medical expenses have been settled, but what about my mental damages? P.L.A.N.T is made up of 12 regions, called cities, each with its own specialized department. These cities are arranged according to the month of Rome, and each city consists of 10 colonial satellites, in the case of the city of Januarius, named Januarius I, and so on. That is January, February, March, April. 3 days later, in the July colony satellite. Noel, what's wrong with you? Why do you keep looking absent-minded? In the field, a man in a singlet made a statement interrupting Noel's thoughts. It's nothing, maybe my body hasn't fully recovered yet. Noor came back to his senses and smiled at the man. The name of the person in front of him is Asia. A few days ago, Noel was almost scared to death by that name, thinking that he would meet the protagonist at once. However, after learning about the original owner's memory, Noor found that he thought too much. In fact, this guy is just like himself, just an ordinary adjuster, but his name happens to be a bit similar to Aslan. Different from himself, Asia is different from himself, a semi-water-filled adjuster who has undergone a series of adjustments. Then do you want to take a break? There aren't many things to do today, I can do it alone. Asia hurriedly put down the things in his hand and stepped forward and asked concernedly. I look so fragile? And the doctors told me to exercise more after I was discharged from the hospital, which would help my body recover. Noel declined Asia's kindness. Is that so? Asia looked at Noel, who was bending over to work, and scratched his head strangely. It's getting late, we'll finish it soon and go back to dinner. All right, speaking of which, how can I survive? While waiting, Noel was thinking about his future. Although he didn't know how he got here, it was obvious that he couldn't go back. So the top priority now is to save your life. As an orphan teenager, the things he can do are really limited. Yes, you read that right, Noel Kasha is an orphan, or a war orphan. In fact, the original owner's life was extremely rough. Noel Kasha belongs to the first generation of adjusters, which is extremely cool. After all, the first generation of adjusters is not even stronger than the second generation of adjusters. That base is the first generation, as for Lux, Aslan, and some other bigwigs. I don't know if it is. Anyway, the first generation is pretty cool. However, there was an accident when this awesome setting came to Noel. According to previous memory, his parents are both natural persons, but unlike other wealthy families who have adjusted, Noel's family is not wealthy, and can only be considered to be at the lower middle level. As for why you can participate in the adjuster experiment, reading www.uuganshu.com. The reason is that his mother is infertile, or the mother's body has problems and cannot conceive a newborn normally. So Noel's parents started asking around in order to have a child. By chance, the parents were selected as experimenters to participate in the later adjuster experiment. In fact, it is not so much a regulator experiment, it is better to say that it is an ordinary artificial insemination to breed offspring. Noel's parents are different from other experimenters. Their original intention is not to hope that the child will be born with strong talents. They just want a child, so they did not adjust the genes. So Noel is not strictly a adjuster, but he was born from the adjuster research base. However, it is precisely because of the low expectations and requirements of his parents that Noel was not abandoned like other stillborn children and was born smoothly. Originally, it came to a happy ending. The research institute and Noel's parents each take what they need, and are well on their own. It's a pity that God didn't want it. It is also ironic. Noel did not get the talent of the adjusters, but he carried the label of adjusters. Because of the intensification of the contradiction between the adjuster and the natural person, a large-scale cleanup operation appeared on the Earth code name, for a blue and pure world. Countless adjusters who never left Earth were killed. And Nyor's parents were also killed in that catastrophe. Fortunately, the kind neighbor took in, Nyor escaped. After several twists and turns, he took the shuttle to the destination. After arriving, because of Noel's young age, the government sent him to the orphanage in the July satellite to take care of him. Until half a month ago, I accidentally encountered a car accident while shopping, ending this painful life. At night, in the July satellite orphanage, Nyor, who had eaten dinner, was lying on the bed in a daze. If I remember correctly, the reason why the adjusters and the natural people are completely torn apart seems to be because on Valentine's Day, the Earth Coalition forces threw a nuclear bomb on the colonial satellite, which not only killed countless innocent adjusters, but also killed countless innocent adjusters. Aslan's mother was also killed. And Aslan's father is one of the 12 members of the Supreme Council and the chairman of the Z.A.F.T Defense Committee. By the way, when is Valentine's Day coming? What is the name of the satellite that was bombed? Noel, you haven't slept yet. Just when Noel was leaning on the bed in a daze, his roommate Asia pushed open the door and walked in. Isn't this waiting for you? Noel said without looking back. Wait for me? Wait for me to do what? Asia, who was about to undress to sleep, stopped and looked at Noel with a puzzled expression. I'm worried about you. Noel made a random excuse and said with a smile. What have I to worry about? Asia was completely confused. Worried about me? Nothing. Noel found that the more he talked, the more confused he was, so he quickly stopped the topic and asked, by the way, do you know that Valentine's Day is on that day? Valentine's Day? Why are you asking this all of a sudden? And I feel like you've changed a lot recently. Asia feels that Noel today is a bit strange. No, it should be said that Noel has become strange since he was injured and hospitalized. For example, fertilizing, transplanting rice seedlings, picking fruit. Obviously, it is much more agile than before. In addition to this, there are his expressions and tone of voice. I don't know if it's my own delusion, but I always feel that it's not the same as before. She became less childish, and she didn't cry every day that she wanted to avenge her parents, as if nothing had happened. If it weren't for the fact that he and Noor were very familiar with him and ruled out the possibility of being ripped off, he would have thought that Noor was not Noor. A whim, you know. Noel continued to ask. He also knows that his usual style is different from the previous Noel, but even if he knows he can't change it, he is not the same person. How could it be the same? And he can't pretend that you let yourself pretend to be bitter and hated every day. Sudden, hoo, I know. Asia seemed to have thought of something, and looked at Noor with shining eyes. What kind of look are you looking at? I'm just asking you for a Valentine's Day time, what are you doing? Noel felt uncomfortable looking at Asia. Unknowingly, Noor has grown up too. He's already at this age. Asia didn't answer, she just said melancholy and emotionally, just like an old father's expression when he heard that his son had a girlfriend. Asia. Do you know that you're so rude to look like this? What do you owe? Wait a minute, what are you doing? What are you doing with a stick? I'm relying on my life. Killing. The son does not teach the fault of the father, let the father tell you what it means to make a good man out of a golden stick. Maybe it's because of Noel's memory, or because of Asia's undisguised enthusiasm and concern, as well as her pure eyes. After Noel came here, he once again experienced the feeling of being a close friend. Noel Kasha. Asia. What time is it? I still haven't slept. In the scolding of the orphanage nun Aya, Noel brought Asia back to the dormitory with a stick, ending the farce at night. What did you say? 2/14 is Valentine's Day. Noer, who had just returned to the dormitory and was about to rest, exclaimed, 2/17 is, there seems to be nothing to be excited about, Valentine's Day happens every year, maybe it's that one. The orphanage was instantly lit up. Noel Kasha. Forward seeing Aya who suddenly broke into the room, Noor's body trembled involuntarily. This was the fear etched in his bones. Even Noel, who had changed his soul, couldn't help being a little terrified. It looks like you're in good spirits. Aya rolled up her sleeves while talking, and at the same time slowly approached Noor. That, I still have injuries on my body. It's okay, I won't kill you. Don't, ow. Leisure time is always short, and time is like an arrow. In the blink of an eye, another half-month has passed. What should I do? Noel sat in front of something like a computer in his previous life, frowning secretly at the information on it. During this time, the more Noor understood, the more flustered he felt. One of the things that worries Noel the most is the news about Lux Klein. This seed-hidden boss is actually 14 years old. Of course, age is not the point is that Lux is already a singer. At the same time, he and Aslan Sarah confirmed the relationship of his fiancée, which means that the plot is about to begin. The Allied forces and the Earth are about to start a war of genocide. Tiao. I still don't know how to save my life. Although Noel did not know the exact time when the war broke out, he still had a general impression that when the war broke out, both Lakis and Aslan were very young, about 14, 5 or 6 years old. left and right. And now, Lux is 14 years old. In other words, the nuclear bomb of the Earth Alliance is coming soon. But now I don't even know which satellite the Earth Coalition's nuclear bomb bombed. What if it was the July satellite that I was staying at? Then, it's not just a complete caf. It's not that he didn't think about telling the high-level information about it, or using some method to pass it on. But he is not a child, his brain is not so naive, this kind of thing is just thinking about it. Let's not talk about whether you can give information to people with sufficient authority. Even if you really handed the information, how can you prove the authenticity of the information? Just because of a word from a 15-year-old child, let the entire strategy be readjusted? Thinking with your toes, you know it's impossible. Don't say it's my own ass, it's Aslan, it's useless for Lux to say it. Now there is constant friction with the Earth Alliance, and the troops are basically concentrated on the front line. In addition, the troops are a few times larger than the Earth Federation. In order to ensure the safety of the front line, it is impossible to retreat and defend on a large scale. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Therefore, now he can only protect himself, but now he is not even qualified to protect himself. And taking 10,000 steps back, what if he really protected himself? Do you want to travel alone in this unfamiliar world of war and be a lonely ghost? Noel. Just when Noel was thinking about how to save his life, outside the house, Asia, who had just returned from the field, stood downstairs and called with his friends. Hey? Why did you guys come back so early? Noel turned off the computer, got up and read on, feeling a little puzzled in his heart. Although the orphanage has assistance from all sides, it does not mean that the orphanage needs to raise the disabled, so there should be no shortage of training. In addition to studying in class, the rest of the time I have to help out with my work. However, there are not many fields in the orphanage. More than 30 orphans can only work in batches, and they usually only come back at dinner time. Why is it suddenly so early today? You don't know? Asiya asked rhetorically. Know what? Noel looked puzzled. Dr. Lino Asera wants to come to see us, so the dean asked us to come back in advance to prepare. Asiya explained from below. Oh, that's it, then come on. Nyoer heard the words and said that he understood. This kind of thing is actually quite normal. In the orphanage, basically, anyone with a certain status will come to offer condolences when they meet him. Not to mention that Lino Asera was carrying. Who are you talking about? Noel, who was just about to turn around and continue to check the information, was suddenly stunned, and looked at Asiya with a dull expression. Rino Asera, isn't that Aslan's name? Why? This unscientific. What should I do? After 3 consecutive questions in despair, Noel and the other friends of the orphanage stood neatly at the entrance of the orphanage, ready to welcome Lino Asera. However, unlike other friends whose faces were full of joy and curiosity, Noel's expression was as sad as he was. Today is the 27th of the 70th year of the CE era, and Valentine's Day is less than 10 days away. Of course, if it's just like this, Noel won't be too much. After all, he doesn't know what year Scarlet Valentine's Day is. The key is the appearance of Lino Asera. The current relationship with the Earth Alliance is extremely delicate. Not long ago, the members who sent people to the Earth to participate in the Council were subjected to terrorist acts, and even caused the death of one of the members. For this reason, the export of materials to the Earth was directly stopped. The two sides started all kinds of denunciations, and the relationship became extremely tense. At this time, the Allied forces on Earth are like 2 powder kegs filled with explosives, and a spark can explode. Under this circumstance, Aslan's mother came to the colonial satellite where she was. Didn't this clearly tell her that the nuclear bomb was coming? Really answered that sentence. I really wanted to escape, but I couldn't escape. Clap clap clap. Warm applause broke out Noel's thoughts. Nyoer looked up and followed his friend's line of sight, and saw 3 luxury cars slowly approaching not far away. Soon, amid the warm applause, the car stopped steadily in front of the gate of the orphanage. With the help of the bodyguards, the door of the middle car slowly opened, and a purple-haired woman walked out. Xingguo Orphanage, welcome Dr. Linoa. Wearing a neat nun uniform, Aya took 2 steps forward and smiled at Linoa Sarah. Sister Aya, you're welcome. Are they the children of this orphanage? Rinoa Sarah is obviously not a politician, so she wouldn't be so rude, or she wouldn't have gone to be an agriculturalist. Yes, there are a total of 37 people from Xingguo Orphanage here. Aya replied with a smile. Aunt Rinoa, long time no see. At this moment, a familiar voice from Noel suddenly came from the crowd. Asia, it's been a long time since you've grown so tall. It's all well taken care of by Sister Aya. Hehe, are you planning to go back with me this time? Speaking of which, you and Aslan haven't seen each other for a long time. It's not good for you to be too unfamiliar. But I don't really want to leave here. Just go with me, just come back in 2 days. Standing in the crowd, Noel felt a little dazed when he looked at Asia, who had a good conversation with Linoa Sarah. What's the situation? Did Asia and Linoa Sarah know each other? And it looks like a good relationship. Are you Noel? Just when Noel was stunned, Linoa Sarah let go of Asia's palm and looked at him. Ah? Noel is? Oh, yes, I am Noel and I am Noel. Hello Dr. Linoa. Noel almost didn't react, and hurriedly stepped forward and said to Rinoa Sarah. Hehe, what an interesting child. Linoa Sarah couldn't help but chuckle as she watched Noel stretch out his hand like a grown-up. Noor also found that his behavior was a little out of age, and quickly explained, I'm sorry, it's a subconscious habit. Hehe, you are quite similar to Aslan in this respect. Rinoa Sarah obviously loved her child very much, and Aslan could not do without 3 words. Really? Noel was stunned. I look like Aslan? Just kidding, I'm much more handsome than that guy. It's almost the same that they both like to pretend to be mature, Linoa Sarah explained. Noel didn't know how to answer for a while, pretending to be mature. I am older than you, definitely older than your son. Let's go first, Dr. Linoa must be a little tired from the journey. Sister Aya found that the topic could not hold on, and hurriedly stood up to save the siege. Well, there's no need to rest. Let's go to the fields to take a look. In 2 days, I will go to the June Colony satellite to participate in the research. I'm afraid I can't stay longer if the time is tight. Linoa Sarah declined Aya's kindness. She originally planned to leave after checking the results of the experiment here. In that case, please come with me, Dr. Rinoa. Seeing this, Aya didn't insist. She stepped forward and pointed in the direction of the orphanage's fields. The test field is over there. Excuse me. Linoa Sarah smiled at Asia while nodding, turned and walked towards the test field with the bodyguard. Hey, Noel, aren't you going with us? Just as the friends from the orphanage went with him, Asia suddenly found that Noel was still in place. I'll come right away. Noor came back to his senses, and trotted after him. Are you feeling unwell? Why do you feel weird? Asia looked at Noel up and down, and always felt that Noel was a little strange today. Weird? Oh, it was really uncomfortable just now, but it's much better now. Noel smiled and waved his hand to signal that it was okay. It really scared me to death. I thought I was so unlucky to be a burial for the colonial satellite. Now it seems that I think too much. The fate of the Son of Destiny is really hard. Linoa Sarah actually didn't plan to stay here for a long time, but just left after 2 days. When he heard this sentence, the big stone hanging in Noel's heart instantly fell to the ground. There is a kind of happiness to escape from death. If my memory is correct, Linoa Sarah died on Valentine's Day, which is 2/14. The colonial satellite she was on disappeared with her. But as the saying goes, there is another village in the dark, but Linoisera doesn't stay here any longer, and will leave in 2 days. Tisk tisk, so the colonial satellite that was bombed by the nuclear bomb was not this July colonial satellite, but other colonial satellites. Although it is not good to gloat in misfortune, this is the sadness and helplessness of the little people. But then again, whether other people die or not has nothing to do with me. Anyway, it's good that those who cherish me and those I cherish live. Are you really all right? It's not a recurrence of an old injury, right? Asia looked at Noel, who was instantly revived with blood, feeling a little unreal. Just now, his face was pale, and now he was suddenly all right? It's okay, I'm fine. Noel said and patted his chest hard, indicating that he was fine. If it weren't for being too arrogant, Noel would want to jump on the spot twice. Seeing this, Asiya didn't say much, just followed Linoisera and the others towards the test field. Soon, a group of people came to the test field. In fact, the experimental field is not large, covering an area of about half an mu, and some newly developed seedlings are planted in it. About half an hour later. Reading www.uuganshu.com. Linoisera confirmed the condition of the seedlings one by one and recorded the details. Then, in Nyor's surprised eyes, he returned to the door of the orphanage. At this time, the door of the car had been opened, and he was waiting for her to get in the car and leave. The seedling number 16 is in good condition, and you have taken good care of it. Linoisera stood by the car door and smiled at Sister Aya. Actually, this is mainly due to Asiya. Aya said and pushed Asiya out. Actually, it's nothing. I usually have nothing to do. Asiya scratched his head a little embarrassedly. Asiya, go back with me. Linoisera looked at Asiya's face and couldn't help thinking of Asiya's parents. This. Asiya hesitated when he heard the words, turned to look at Nyor and others. Obviously he didn't want to leave his little friend. Anyway, you have to go back on February 17th, you might as well go directly with me, and by the way, you can see your Uncle Sarah and Aslan. Linoisera continued. 2/17. Noel frowned slightly after hearing this. What day is 2/17? Then. Okay. Asiya thought for a while and thought that she had not seen Aslan and Uncle Sarah for a long time. She had been cared for by them for so many years, and it was reasonable to come to the door to say hello. Noel looked at Asiya in disbelief. Asiya was going to go back with Linoisera, doesn't that mean he was with Linoisera all the time before returning home? Then, a nuclear bomb? Wait Just as Nyor was about to say something, a bodyguard suddenly ran over not far away. What's up? Linoisera looked at the bodyguard who walked in and couldn't help but look puzzled. For some reasons, your shuttle may be delayed for 2 days before arriving. The bodyguard walked in and explained. What happened? I know. Linoisera was just about to continue to ask, when suddenly a flash of inspiration seemed to have thought of something. After all, she is Patrice Sarah's wife. Even if she is not engaged in military affairs, she still knows a lot of things. Linoisera restrained her thoughts, turned around and smiled at Sister Aya. I'm really sorry, because of all special reasons, I may have to disturb here for a few days. What did Dr. Linois say? Without your assistance, it is still unknown whether this Starfire orphanage will exist, so you can stay as long as you want. Sister Aya hurriedly replied. This is not a compliment, the Spark orphanage was really led by Linoisera. Sister Aya has won the award, and I just did what I was supposed to do. Linoisera shook her head and replied, she didn't think it was a great achievement for her to lead the construction of the Spark orphanage. Not to mention her status as a congressman's wife, the establishment of the experimental field here is enough for her to do so. Looking at Linoisera walking towards the orphanage building, Noel felt bad when he stood in the crowd. Linoisera isn't leaving? What about playing with me? What if she stays here until 2/14? Isn't that the end of the calf? But things are not without room for easing. After all, she only delayed for a few days, so it shouldn't be a big problem. I've even dealt with such things as time travel, so there should be no problem with nuclear bombs or something. Besides, he has no ability to interfere with the other party's choice, and there is no solution other than resignation. As night fell, Linoisera sat in front of the computer in Sister Aya's room and began to analyze the data collected during the day. Since there is no way to go back to conduct the experiment, then we can only analyze the seedling data separately first. Linoisera seemed to have found something in the data, and there was a hint of surprise in her eyes that she couldn't hide, and she couldn't help but put on her glasses to confirm it carefully. After a while, Linoisera withdrew her gaze, reached out and pressed the pager on the side. "What's the matter with madam?" Soon, the voice of the bodyguard came from the pager. "Please help me contact the Genetic Research Institute of the January Colonial Satellite, and ask them to bring the number 4 genetic medicine with them when the shuttle comes over." Linoisera said. "Yes. I hope I'm not mistaken." Time passed, 4 days passed in a blink of an eye. In the cafeteria of Xingguo Orphanage, Linoisera was having breakfast with everyone. Since Linoisera came, the welfare benefits of the orphanage have obviously improved a lot, and the food has become taller. At this moment, a bodyguard in black came in with a password suitcase outside the cafeteria. "What's up?" Seeing this, Linoisera put down the tableware and chopsticks in her hands. "Your shuttle has arrived." "I see, let them take a day off, and we'll leave the day after tomorrow." Linoisera glanced at the cipher suitcase in the bodyguard's hand. After several days of research, she found that the number 16 seedling still has room for improvement, but there are many areas where the data is insufficient and needs to be tested by herself. "Asia, pack up too. We'll take the shuttle to leave the day after tomorrow." Linoisera said, stood up from her seat, and said, "I have some things to deal with, so I will leave first." "Aunt Sarah, what are you holding?" a cute Anna asked curiously in the seat next to Linoisera. "Hey? This, this is a kind of food seasoning. It just arrived. I'm going to use it to test it." Linoisera was stunned for a moment, and explained with a smile. "Seasoning? Is it delicious?" Anna licked her lips. As a snack foodie, she was excited when she heard the food. "Oh, of course, I'll make it for you myself later." Linoisera noticed Anna's licking of her lips, rubbed Anna's head with a smile, and said to Asia and the others, "Everyone, please take it slow, I'll leave first if I have something else to do." After speaking, he turned around and left the cafeteria with the bodyguard. The day after tomorrow. Today is 2/11, the day after tomorrow is 2/13. Noel looked at the figure of Asia and the direction Linoisera left, with a faint glint in his eyes. Fortunately, when Linoisera was leaving before 2/14, he also had a decision in his heart. Linoisera couldn't save her, or dared not save her. But Asia can still try to save him, after all, this is one of his few friends in this world. Time flickered to the afternoon of February 12th. It's still useless, could it be that my calculation is wrong? Linoisera looked at the analysis data in her hand with a hint of helplessness on her face. In order for the adjuster to obtain normal fertility, various aspects are carried out, research to various degrees, and food is naturally included. Of course, the food mentioned here does not mean that the genetic defect of the adjuster can be repaired after eating. It is a neutralizer. In fact, the January Gene Laboratory has already given the medicine and theoretical method to repair the reproduction problem of the adjuster. Evolve. Or genetic repair, or secondary adjustment the day after tomorrow. But the way of directly injecting genetic medicine is too dangerous. There are too many uncertain factors in UU reading www.uuganshu.com, and it is impossible to test it directly on the human body. So they had a bold idea. Since it is not advisable to directly inject medicine for transformation, can we use a slow method that is within the tolerance of the human body? And quickly gave two ideas. A small amount of human injection, but this proposal was quickly rejected. Gene medicine is too overbearing and may destroy the human gene sequence. Even a small amount of injection will cause permanent damage to the human body. 2. Taking medicines, which is also the method favored by researchers, but the problem is the same as above, the sequelae of genetic medicine cannot be avoided. After thinking about it, they found that if the problem of the sequelae of genetic medicine is not solved, then everything will be in vain. So the focus shifted to how to solve the sequelae. So what can neutralize the sequelae of genetic medicine? Unfortunately, nothing has been found so far, so the genetic seedling experiment led by Linoacera appeared later. And this is also the reason why Linoacera has been circulating in various colonial satellites. But this is indeed the most likely sample to solve the problem at present. It seems that I have to stay here for a few more days. On the other side, just as Linoacera was distracted by the genetic medicine on the table, unknown Noel is secretly making his own love food in the room. In his opinion, it is basically certain that Linoacera will leave here. After all, the shuttle has been arranged, how can there be a fake? From this, we can infer that this satellite colony is safe. Of course, this is not to say that the nuclear bomb was brought by Linoacera, or that the Earth Coalition forces aimed to launch the nuclear bomb here. But because Linoacera is the person with the highest status of the dead in Scarlet Valentine's Day, her death directly affects two important figures, Senator Sarah and Aslan. Actually, Noel really wanted to save her at first, but he was powerless. Even self-protection depends on the person who God does not give face to. What can you expect him to do? In addition to the above reasons, Noel is actually a little selfish and evasive. The only thing he can rely on in this world is the vague foresight in his memory. If Linoacera is really rescued, what impact will she have on the world as Aslan's mother and the wife of the Minister of Defense? Will the following things continue to develop as you know them well? In a completely unfamiliar world full of all kinds of dangers, if you lose this little cheating cheat, can you really survive in this world? Don't look at the protagonist's splendid performance, from the first episode all the way to the finale. Besides they are the protagonists, another reason is their strength. One base and one Aslan, the two of them ride on their own exclusive mechas. Without the restraint of other elite mechas, these two are gods on the battlefield. What Zoft or what the Earth Alliance, basically kill as many as they come. And what about yourself? A pseudo-adjuster, with nothing special except the label of an adjuster on his back. No strength, no talent, no background. The conclusion is that a rude person is nothing. In this case, if you don't want to save your life, do you want to bite the bullet and become the savior? It should be noted that it is really awesome to pretend to be a forceful person, and a person who is not strong enough to pretend to be forceful, that's really stupid. Therefore, Noel Kasha can only choose to save Asiya, which is already his best effort. After all, looking at the entire anime, except for Aslan, there is no one named Asiya at all, and of course no one named Noel Kasha, presumably the two little guys can't play any role. Speaking of which, how do I get Asiya to eat this thing? Open your mouth and force it. Nyor stopped the movements in his hand and looked at the results of his busy work, and suddenly felt a little troubled. Noel's purpose is very simple. It's fine to let Asiya get sick and miss the shuttle time. Linoacera can't force a patient to get on the shuttle. And this thing in front of me was made based on the method of online inquiry. The effect is abdominal pain, dizziness, and limb paralysis, etc. But it's not fatal, at most it's just uncomfortable for a while. And judging from the appearance, the effect must be very gratifying. But this is a bit too powerful. Unless a normal person has a bag on his head, no one can speak it. Cow cow, brother Noel has dinner. Just when Noel was standing in the room thinking about how to make Asiya eat this delicious dish, Anna's voice suddenly came from outside the door. Come on now. Noer heard the words and got up and prepared to put away the food. This thing can't be exposed. If he is charged with poisoning, it's not. Crunch. However, before Noel could pack his things, Anna, who was outside the door, pushed open the door and walked in. Hey! Brother Noel, what does this smell like? Why does it smell so bad? Anna covered her nose as soon as she came in. The smell was too high, even a little hot to the eyes. This Noel was at a loss for words while holding the dark food he made. What should I say? Ah, this is Chinese medicine. A treasure with a long tradition. Suddenly, Noer had a flash of light and thought of a lame excuse. Speaking of which, I have to mention that there are Chinese medicines in this world. Because the regulators come from various countries, there are also Chinese medicines. Chinese medicine, what is it? Anna was puzzled. As the name suggests, it is a kind of medicine. Noer hurriedly explained, and after seeing Anna's face with doubts, he couldn't help but continue to add, don't think that it smells bad, but good medicine is bitter. This traditional Chinese medicine will be revived as soon as you take a good medicine and get rid of the disease. Really or not? Anna obviously didn't believe Noel's words, her little face was full of doubts. Of course it's true, I can't lie to you. Noer hurriedly replied. Then take a bite and let me see. Anna continued. This Nalton was at a loss for words. Take a bite? I'm afraid I'm stupid and I'll take a bite. Didn't you say it's a traditional Chinese medicine for curing diseases? Didn't you make it out and eat it yourself because you were sick? Anna is not a fool, or as an adjuster, basically there is no such thing as a fool. Sick? When did I say I? Then why did you come up with this traditional Chinese medicine? I am. Why don't you go down to eat? Wow! What does this taste like? Before Noel could say anything, Asia walked in from the door, but as soon as he came in, he was choked up by the pungent smell. This is Chinese medicine. Before Noel could speak, Anna answered first. Traditional Chinese medicine. Asia looked puzzled, and suddenly there was a Chinese medicine. This brother Noer seems to be ill, let's go to the hospital for a look. Noer was robbed by Anna again. Looking at Anna who was crying, Noer didn't know what expression to use for a while. If he didn't know that he was tricked by Anna, he would have grown so big in vain. Noel, are you ill? Are you all right? Could it be the injury you suffered last time? Asia suddenly thought of the last car accident. It has only been more than a month since Noel's last car accident. During this time, Noel has not had a good rest, so the old injury will not recur. And Noel's old injury recurred only a few days ago. Here Nalton was at a loss for words. How should I answer this? Brother Noer, do we want to go to the hospital? Anna asked in a timely manner while touching her tears. No, I don't have a big business. Noel hurriedly refused when he heard the words, and he still had time to go to the hospital for examination. Why not? Let's go. Let's go and have a look. Asia said in her heart that you have already prepared Chinese medicine for yourself, and it will be if you are all right. It's really not necessary. I'm really fine. Noer hurriedly stabilized his body, held the basin and pulled up with Asia, and at the same time couldn't help but glared at Anna fiercely. Why not? Let's go. It's really not necessary. I'm not going to the hospital. Just as the two were pulling, Anna, who was stared at by Noer, seemed to have thought of something, and couldn't help but say, Brother Asia, if Brother Noer doesn't want to, then we shouldn't go to the hospital. Anna. Asia looked puzzled, to know that Anna and Noel have a good relationship, why suddenly? Noel was just about to give Anna an encouraging look, but when he turned his head, he found that the corner of Anna's mouth was slightly upturned, and the alarm bell suddenly sounded in his heart. Sure enough, Anna continued to speak, Brother Noer, is what you just said true? What's real or fake? Noer looked at Anna vigilantly, something was wrong with this girl. Isn't this a cure for your illness? Anna continued to ask. This. Noel was stunned. Why did I feel something was wrong? No, it seems that I know something is wrong. Why don't you try this medicine? Anna asked. Here Noel's hunch came true, this pit girl actually came for real. Yes, why don't you try it? Asia also noticed Noel's hesitation. With what he knew about Noel, this guy would never eat this kind of thing. At that time, you still have to go to the hospital obediently. He is still convinced of the fact that Noel is ill. Let's eat first, I'll wait for the smell to dissipate before eating it. Noel found the eyes of Anna and Asia meeting, and suddenly felt a kindness to feed the dog. I'm all here to save you. Really good people cannot be. Speaking of which, these two people somehow colluded. Ah, brother Noel, do you think this medicine doesn't taste good? Anna heard the words and continued to help. Hey? Hey. Yes. Although this is a good thing, it tastes. What are you doing? Before Noel could finish speaking, he was suddenly taken aback by Anna's operation, and saw that Anna touched a bottle out of nowhere and poured all the liquid in it. What did you just pour in it? This is Aunt Renwoya's condiment. I got it secretly from her on a special trip. How about you taste it? Anna took out a small exquisite bottle and shook it. As a professional snacker, how could you not try something good when you meet it? So when Linoisera left, Anna secretly poured out a little bit, originally to save it for a while to eat. But in order to make Nyor's illness get better soon, he had to reluctantly share it with Nyor. Noel was about to say something when he suddenly found that the pungent smell just now disappeared. This condiment is a bit powerful. The taste is gone, do you want to eat it? Asia looked at Nyor with a smile. This after listening to Noel, he felt that the whole thing was not good. He now seriously suspects that these two people made a special trip to deal with him. Otherwise, how could it be so tacit? Brother Nyor, aren't you lying to us? Why don't we go to the hospital? Anna said quietly from the side. I've already given you my favorite condiment, but you're going to back off? How is that possible? Noel, never lie. Nyor hurriedly denied it, the character design can't be collapsed. In the future, I will also count on this thing to mess around. Then eat it. Asia said with her arms crossed and leaning against the wall to watch the fun. He is now basically sure that this guy Noel is not sick, but he just doesn't know what he is doing. However, based on what he knew about Noel, it was very likely that this thing was prepared for him to eat. There is no basis, it is just a simple intuition. Yeah, eat it. Anna also followed Asia's way, holding her hands and leaning to the side. Nyor looked at the appearance of the two, and suddenly became angry. Eat, 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 eat. I made this thing myself, and I knew exactly what was in it. If I had to eat it, I would lose half my life. By the time it seems to be possible. I was ill, and then I forced Asia to take charge. With Asia's character, this guy is likely to feel guilty and stay. And now that things have come to this point, I have done everything I can and it is enough. Eat what you eat. Thinking of this, Nyor held up the plate and closed his eyes in the stunned eyes of the two, and opened his mouth to drink. Anyway, no one will die, it's not a big problem. Do not. You really Anna and Asia were frightened by Noel's heroism. They were about to come to stop them, but it was too late. In fact, there are only a lot of things on the plate, but when you actually pour it out, it's more than a bowl, and it's done in a few mouthfuls. Wow! After eating, Nyor felt nauseated for a while, so he hurriedly covered his mouth and forced himself not to spit it out, and said, "Do you believe it now?" Sure enough, saving people is too painful. Good people are hard to do. Why, what does it smell so bad? Just when the three were in a stalemate, Aya, who hadn't seen anyone coming downstairs, came up. As soon as she entered the door, she smelled the abnormal smell that remained in the room. The taste of Chinese medicine. Asia didn't know what the Noel was up to, so he could only follow the previous conversation to explain. However, this taste is really like Chinese medicine, I just don't know how it works and what the consequences will be after eating it, but seeing that Noor can drink it in one gulp, it shouldn't kill anyone. Traditional Chinese medicine. Sister Aya was speechless for a while, and she still has Chinese medicine. It's a question of whether you can recognize the medicinal materials clearly, and you dare to talk about Chinese medicine. Yes, Brother Noor prepared a pair of Chinese medicine himself. Anna stood up and said. Hey! Noor was stunned for a moment, and prepared a pair of Chinese medicine? After working for a long time, Anna knows what Chinese medicine is? Doesn't that mean, how can you be so black-hearted at such a young age? What did you say? Sister Aya looked at Noel in disbelief. Did this child hit his head in a car accident? What's up? At this moment, Lino Asera also came up. It's nothing, an idiot who is ill and prepares medicine for himself. Sister Aya lifted her forehead and shook her head, this guy is really worrying. After Sister Aya finished explaining, she asked Noel, Noel, do you remember what was in there? Do you want to go to the hospital for a check? Noer's stupid behavior made her speechless. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com Traditional Chinese Medicine. Lino Asera was stunned, she hadn't heard the name for a long time. When Noel heard the words, he touched his stomach and carefully sensed it. He swallowed the acid water pouring down his throat and said, except for a little nausea, no problem. After speaking, Noel also felt a little strange in his heart. The dark food was specially developed by himself according to the online tutorial, and various things were interspersed in the middle. It stands to reason that there should be no reaction at all. Then pay attention to yourself, and if there is anything uncomfortable, remember to tell me later. Asia, look at him tonight. Sister Aya didn't say much after hearing the words, just asked Asia to pay attention one time. I know. Asia nodded and replied. Can you still eat? Sister Aya looked at Noel up and down. Would you like to leave some for me? Noel really had no appetite at the moment, and he didn't know if it was his illusion. He always felt that something was wrong with his body. The brain is extremely awake, and at the same time it feels as if something is running through the body. Okay, then you can take a rest and let Asia bring you something to eat later. Sister Aya didn't think too much when she saw that Noel's face was normal. After speaking, she turned around and left the room. It wasn't that she didn't care about Noor, but Noor, who has been a little lively since she was a child. I often do some unexpected things. So everyone got used to it over time. After all, after so many years, Noor was neither disabled nor dementia, and he was still alive and kicking. Soon, only Noel, who doubted life, was left in the room. Noel touched his stomach, and even tried to jump and take 2 steps to make sure that there was nothing strange about his body and everything was normal. No, there is still something abnormal, and that is the brain. Now he has an inexplicable feeling of detachment. In a trance, there is even a feeling that time is slowing down, as if the whole world is slowing down. Strangely, facing this situation, Noel didn't have the slightest fear in his heart, instead, he felt that way. Noel enjoyed this feeling. At this moment, the world he saw was completely different from the world he had in mind. It was an indescribable illusion. After a while, looking around Noel, he seemed to have found something. How is this possible? Noel walked to the bed, picked up the broken hair on his pillow, and couldn't help but shrink his pupils. When did my eyesight get so good? Although the pillow is not black, it is somewhat blackened. In this case, is it possible for a person to spot a broken hair less than 3 centimeters above it at a distance of 5 meters? I can't even see it even with a magnifying glass. Brother Noor is amazing, he can actually dispense medicine for himself. Do you believe this too? Why don't you believe it? He ate it all by himself. That's because he has a problem with his brain. Don't imitate him, Anna. But seriously, have you noticed that Noel has changed a lot since the last car accident? I found out a long time ago, but isn't this bad? You don't know what he was like in the past, and the bitterness and hatred scared people to death. Actually, I can't blame him. He was 5 years old when he came here. A 5-year-old child watched his parents die tragically in front of him. Nyor stood in the room on the second floor and listened to the sound from downstairs with a dull expression. The orphanage canteen is on the far left on the first floor, and the current room is on the right on the second floor. In this case, is it possible for humans to hear the conversation in the canteen? Buzzing without waiting for Nyor to wonder, a slight flapping of wings suddenly came from his ears. Nyor turned around and looked over. After a while, a bee flew in from the window. Just when Noel wanted to reach out to catch the bees, he suddenly felt a warm sensation from his nostrils, as if clear snot was flowing from his nostrils. Noel reached out and wiped his nose, then, "I'm bleeding." Boom! Seeing the blood on his hands, Nyor's body shook for a while, and he hurriedly stretched out his hand to hold the table beside him to keep him from falling. "Ah! Hee hee. What's wrong with me? Didn't it just say that the limbs are weak?" Why, feeling the humming from his brain and the gradually losing consciousness of his legs, Noel was terrified, with a trace of doubt and astonishment on his face. Bang! However, just when he tried to reach out to open the door to ask for help, with a blood-colored filter appearing in front of him, Noel's brain crashed on the spot and fell straight down. The dark red with a trace of black blood slowly flowed down the corners of the mouth and nostrils. In 5 minutes inside the cafeteria, I'm so full. Anna leaned back on the chair and touched her round belly with satisfaction. Hee, eat more if you like. Linoa Sarah walked out of the kitchen with the boiled chicken soup. Looking at Anna's cute appearance, she couldn't help but smile dumbly. "Aunt Sarah, why don't you go, or where can I eat such a good meal in the future?" Anna looked at the chicken soup on the table and licked her lips hard, but looking at her round belly, she had no choice but to settle down. Resisting the greedy desire to eat, he quietly stretched out his little hand in the direction of the chicken soup. Sister Aya got up and knocked on Anna's head, and she said with tears in her eyes, "What are you talking about? Dr. Linoa didn't cook for you." Linoa Sarah gave Asia a bowl of chicken soup and said, "Since everyone likes it so much, I'll be responsible for taking over the meals for the past few days." "How many days?" Sister Aya looked puzzled. Didn't she mean she was leaving tomorrow? "Because of some things, I may have to stay here for a few more days," Linoa Sarah explained. "Aunt Sarah isn't leaving." Anna put down the chicken soup and looked at Rinoya Sarah with bright eyes. "Well, it might take a few more days," Linoa Sarah said with a smile. "Long live! I can finally stop eating Sister Aya's." It's nothing." After Anna finished speaking, she sat back slowly, and silently picked up the chicken soup, but her crescent-like eyes made Aya, who was opposite, grit her teeth. Rinoa Sarah smiled dumbly, patted Anna's head and sat down. She liked this happy atmosphere very much. Thinking about it carefully, since Aslan was taken to the moon to study, she has not given her a lot of money for many years. Aslan is cooking. Aunt Sarah. Just when Rinoa Sarah was thinking about Aslan, Anna, who was beside her, seemed to have thought of something, so she could not help but quietly reach out and tug at her sleeve. "What's the matter?" Rinoa Sarah couldn't help but be a little curious when she looked at Anna's cautious forehead. "Do you still have that condiment? Can you give me a little more?" Anna said cautiously. "Condiments? What condiments?" Linoa Sala was puzzled, not remembering what condiments she had. "It's the one a few days ago," Anna said hurriedly. "A few days ago? Oh, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com, you mean that?" Linoa Sarah suddenly smiled, the excuse that was mentioned casually at that time was actually missed by this little guy. That's right, that's it, can you give me a little more? Anna nodded and asked. What do you want that? Linoa asked with a smile. Eat, don't you know how difficult Sister Aya sometimes cooks? Sister Aya's meal is the best. Anna hurriedly made up for her mistake. You will suffer in the future. Aya raised her eyebrows and sneered. Actually, I lied to you, that thing is not a condiment and cannot be eaten. Linoa Sarah took this opportunity to tell Anna the reality. With Anna's gluttonous character, she was really afraid that Anna would steal the genetic medicine and eat it. Can't eat. Anna seemed to have heard something unbelievable, and her whole body froze. Yes, you can't eat it, it's a drug in the experimental stage. Linoa Sally looked at Anna's appearance and silently made a decision in her heart. She would lock up the genetic medicine when she went back later. Otherwise, it would be troublesome to be eaten by this foodie. The destructive power of that genetic drug on the human body is even more terrifying than that of a genetic virus. All the test subjects, animals, were not spared, and the longest survival lasted for less than 5 hours. Aunt Sarah is lying. It's obviously edible. Anna was stimulated. Hee, I didn't lie to you, that one is really inedible. Renoir was a little helpless, maybe he would lock the genetic medicine on the shuttle soon. Obviously you can eat anything, Brother Noor has eaten it. Really, what did you say?